Well, I'm really glad we could get you here. And I'm glad. Welcome to New York.
Thank you
know.
very
You
much.
had quite a flight.
Mm.
And terribly sorry about what happened to so many people in Indonesia with
Yeah,
the tsunami.
we are
Well,
very sorry also.
I really give my condolences to you and the country.
Thank you very much.
It was a really awful business. I can't get my... welcome very much to Conversations, where it's a really great pleasure to welcome to the program a professor of accounting and economics and a man who comes all the way to us from Indonesia, all halfway around the world, is a professor of accounting and economics there, and he understands and has helped set up an institute that is offering advanced programs in what is called Sharia economics, and that's a very, very interesting subject, and it's a great pleasure to welcome to the program. Now maybe you could pronounce it for me. It's Sofyan Harahap. Sofyan Harahap, and welcome very much to Conversation New York City and Public Access.
Thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure to welcome you. We were just chatting. I'm really sorry. You've come 30 hours on an airplane coming in from Indonesia, where they had this awful tsunami down in Aceh. And I'm sorry. I would project to you the the condolences of people. There was a great loss of life, and so it was
yes,
terrible.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You yourself are located more up toward Jakarta, which is not, I guess that wasn't so affected by it.
Yeah, right.
But in Aceh was really badly affected.
And North Sumatra.
Yeah, in North Sumatra, and I'm very sorry about that great loss. It was a tremendous blow that came from nature.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you could, maybe we want to talk about your unique position, because you have many hats you wear, and you've had an incredibly important and fruitful life and academic experience. But could you share your own background, personal background, and then we can get into a discussion about economics and about particularly this interesting take that you could help share with the audience that I think is on a large scale misinformed about certain aspects of Islam. But could you share your own background, please?
Yes, thank you. My background is accounting, accountant, and my expert on accounting starting from secondary school.
From secondary
school. I started studying bookkeeping. It is in Dutch system.
That's right, because that had been colonized by the Europeans. That had been colonized by the Dutch.
Yeah.
Right up until the end of the Second World War.
Yes.
And you had a liberation movement and so forth. Yeah. So, okay.
And I started in bookkeeping in secondary school and go to high school with the same department, same major, and go to university, to college in accounting major. So we moved to American system.
Accounting has been something you've been interested in from when you were young and so forth.
Yeah.
And you fit in, and we were talking last night, we had dinner last night, we were talking, it was a really interesting conversation, but they had a system, a university or an educational system based upon a Dutch model. These colonial powers from Europe would tend to impose their educational system.
Yes.
And maybe you could just share the situation there. You have a system that was based on the Dutch notion or a European notion of educational standards?
Dutch system. Before 80s. But after 80s, we changed to American system.
Now, you're talking now in accounting and the educational system. We had a different system in Britain than we do here, that sort of thing. But you change, and you're talking particularly about accounting, and there are differences in terms of the systems of accounting between different models and so forth, and apparently that's quite important. And the American system, you tend to think that the American system is, in a certain sense, a progressive or a good system of accounting that's been adopted and is being promulgated by the American influence on business and so forth?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, before 80s, because there are many Dutch companies in Indonesia, especially in plantation, and they use Dutch system. But because of the new investor come from America, and many professors go to to America studying and back to university teach American system, and when we end up to the totally new American system in 1980s.
And you as a professional think that that was an advancement, that it was good that you've gone to an American system.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you're talking, Indonesia is a very old and proud, it's got a long tradition, there are people there. You have a lot of Chinese influence, you have influence from India. I guess it must have been it's the largest Muslim population in the world,
Yes.
120 million or so, or 220 million?
220 million total population.
Total population, and the vast majority of that is Muslim?
Yes.
And that was influenced...
90%, almost 90%.
And that was influence from India, that sort of thing, that they brought the Muslim thing from the Mughal
Yes, from the, right. And also come from China.
And from China also.
China also.
Also, I guess there would be some Buddhist and some Taoist and some Hindu influence as well.
Yes.
And that's also in the population.
Right.
And then there are some Christian, I guess, as well. But overwhelmingly, it's a Muslim country.
Right. The
and
most populous.
And you yourself are a Muslim.
Muslim.
And you are a practicing, and you pray 5 times a day and so forth.
Yes.
We had an interesting conversation. We got about 1.4 billion Muslims in the world. Many people think of it here in the United States as being Arabs, but that's only about 22% of the world Muslim population are Arabs. There's a much larger ummah, or a much larger collection of Islamic people, and there are differences between the idea of Islam as understood and practiced by people around the world. Maybe you could touch upon that for the American audience is not very well aware of the nuances and the differences between the various people that make up the Muslim ummah or broader community. Could you share that with us, please?
Yes, but in terms of principle of religion, there's not main differences between the principle of religion among the Muslim ummah.
Not many.
Not
much
many.
difference.
Not much difference.
We have this.
The difference is between how to implement the religion. Some people say we should implement 100%. Some people say no. This is new world. We are not the superpower. We have to make a step-by-step implementation of the say Islamic law.
Yeah, there are some who are fundamentalists.
Some
read
fundamentalists.
In each of these systems, they're market fundamentalists.
Right.
But there's interpretations of that, and there's some parts of it, people who want to move with the times in a certain sense, and be progressive in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
But some of them, because of the political situation in their country, right? So also maybe because of their what we call it, the quality of human resources.
Yes.
Maybe some of them are illiterate, some of them doesn't know the other aspect of their work. So they don't, they never go to other work, and then they assume that what they have is only the one.
Yeah, that's a problem in the world for any ethnic group or something. People will get a sense of fundamentalism tied to their own notions of things, and then once you get into that, you got a little problem about trying to change with the changing times, I think.
Yes,
Yeah. I think each cultures have had that problem.
We understand that the quality of the human resources in Islamic countries is still low because of the colonialism era, and because of the poverty still exists in Islamic countries.
The what still exists?
Poverty.
Poverty. Yeah, right. There are many countries that have poverty.
Yeah, so they,
for whatever reasons out of history.
They struggle for their physical needs.
Sure.
So they forget maybe education. They don't have any fund for getting quality of life.
I see. Yeah.
So it could be one of the problem is Muslim faced.
The Muslim world.
Muslim world.
We hear a lot because we're now very involved in the United States. I feel it was a big mistake myself. Other people think differently. We're involved in an incursion in Iraq, and we hear a great deal of talk about the Shia and the Sunni and the conflict, and then you got the Kurds, and you got different things. So there's conflict, and you got Wahhabism in Saudi Arabia. You have different ideas of what the Islam is. But you say at a basic level there is a unity of thought around the Islamic faith and the Islamic culture, but there are cultural and ethnic differences,
yes,
I guess, among the, that larger part of humanity. There's bound to be very real differences.
In my opinion, the difference is not on the principle of religion, but maybe on the culture, on how they approach, how they interpret the Islamic values, and also due to their ability to face the new world.
The new world?
New world, right.
The industrial, post-industrial,
modern industrial.
Right.
So you know that mostly Muslim countries still facing the transformation from colonial era to modern or independent era.
There was if you think about it, a great deal of the world had been colonized by Europeans for the last couple hundred years, and it wasn't until the end, the thing that was in the air at the end of the Second World War was decolonization. The French came back from Indochina. They finally got out of Algeria. The British had to come back from their colonial control, the Dutch and so forth, the Germans even to a degree. So that was part of the pattern. And then you had a liberation struggle and the establishment of the United Nations, because there was this kind of a major development that was characteristics. You had independent states building up based upon their own culture beliefs rather than those that were imposed by European colonial overlords.
And some of the leaders in Muslim countries just represent the colonial government.
I think there had to have been, when there were colonial occupation, there would have been people who would have sided with the colonizers in order to get maybe money or advantage or power or something, and they would be like what would be called collaborators.
Right.
In the minds of people who were on the independent. And you in Indonesia, you had a great leader at the beginning that set the pace for Indonesia. And you lived through that yourself, through that period, or you're familiar with it?
I'm familiar with that, and and you know, because of our feudalistic society, so we cannot make a very democratic society because of the quality of our people, and we cannot actually implement the democratic society like what we have in America.
You don't think they can implement a democratic society? Much of it, they have difficulty.
Because the quality of the quality of people, right? Like Sukarno lead the country, but in the meantime he became a dictator. The second president also the same thing. He tried to correct the Sukarno, but later on you can see he became a dictator.
There's Lord Acton. Are you familiar with Lord Acton saying power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely?
I use it very much.
I do too, in my own thinking, in view of the world. The power is a real dangerous thing we ought to understand. And it's a big and huge issue now. And you got a great, again, 4 billion people that are of Islamic faith. And that's an important kind of dialectic between that people and the broader world. Now, you came at it from accounting and from business and so forth. You studied here in the United States. Apparently. You got a scholarship over to Illinois or something.
I'm happy that I got scholarship from Asian Development Bank and studying in University of Illinois at Chicago, and another 3 months in University of Kentucky.
Kentucky. Right in the heartland. You got right at the heartland of it. And you like this country.
I like it.
It is something else.
I have a lot of things to study in America. And I like how American working, and motivated by innovation, inventions, free speech.
You have a great regard for the entrepreneurial spirit and the development of new ideas and that sort of thing. You're very progressive in that sense, and that is that's important. And then you studied there, and then you went and took a doctorate degree. You took did you do that in Australia?
Yeah, in Adelaide.
Adelaide,
University of Adelaide. I got my
with the
PhD.
Kangaroos and whatnot. Did you like Australia as well?
Yes, I like it.
Similar to America, do you think?
Yes, America is much much faster, no?
Faster.
Yeah.
And New York's fastest of all.
Oh, much faster.
Moves
wow.
fast.
Yeah,
you move fast. New York City minutes. They say you got to move fast. Yeah.
Quite similar with Chicago. Huh?
Yeah, like Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. So you've done that, and then you've gone back and you're at the university now. Maybe you can share where you are. And I just jokingly said as we're putting the credits, you're too busy. You're doing too much. It fills up the screen with all the things you're doing.
Yeah.
But you've written over 20 books, and you're head of a department, a major department, and you're reaching out to a world in terms of trying to get some sort of understanding of business practices in an educational format. So maybe you could share a little of that if you could.
Yeah, when you know, when I graduated from bachelor degree, I was working in plantation companies.
Rubber plantation?
Yeah, rubber plantation and palm oil.
Palm oil.
Palm oil.
You got, you got coconuts. You have coconuts and copra.
No. Palm is different. Palm.
Palm.
CPO.
And they had this plantation system the Dutch had installed?
Yeah, yes.
It's still in place? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. And, okay, you were working there, yeah?
Yeah, working in the plantation company as an auditor.
Auditor.
And then beside I'm teaching in the university. And I also practice in public accountant.
Public accountant.
Public accountant.
That is something I want to ask you, because you are among other, you're a professor and you got much work you're doing and so on, but you're what is called a CPA, a certified.
Yeah, and in America we call it CPA.
CPA,
certified public accountant.
A certified, and there is a difference in terms of accounting is very important. The way the books are kept and the way things are measured and so forth, accounting is very important. And there's a distinction between the public accountancy and private accountancy. Could you share a little about that? The discipline of accounting as a large part of economic business organization or organization of a society is very important, maybe overlooked by people, but it's really bedrock stuff in terms of the way a society is going to be organized, isn't it?
Yeah, public accounting is protect the public.
Okay.
So we have to obey all rules related to the accounting profession, like accounting standard, ethical, professional standard, and also auditing standard, how to do audit to express our opinion on finance statement.
Right.
But private accountant or company accountant is the accountant who
or a company
who write it. Accountant of the company.
So
it is not protected by the government because you know it depends on what is the management ask for.
Right. Yeah, and you have in that private accounting you have a thing called creative accounting. And
there's a big problem now.
Creativity appears. We have a famous movie. I don't know if you've seen it, or a film called The Producers.
What's that?
It's the biggest show on Broadway now. It had originally Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder playing Max Bialystock and Bloom. And Bloom was an accountant, and he figured out a way in which they could make money by having a play fail on Broadway. And it's a comedy, and it's really funny. But he used the term creative accounting. So there are rules and regulations and understanding of how the economy is going to be organized, and then the creative accountant would be able to find a way in which something could be done that might push the rules a little bit, that sort of thing. But the public accounting is largely in the business of keeping the system, vouchsafing the integrity of the system itself that apparently or supposedly is agreed to by the larger business and the larger society. Is that more or less correct?
Yes. Creative accounting also can be said income management or earning management. That is the big issue now.
Earning management?
Earning management.
Or income management?
Income management or creative accounting or lipstick accounting.
Lipstick?
Lipstick accounting.
Lipstick
accounting.
Okay.
So window dressing.
I see. Cosmetic
dressing.
accounting. Yeah, right. I see. Yeah.
So what happened in U.S. I think last year, especially not last year, 2001.
It sounds to me like Kenny Lay's Enron.
Yeah, Enron.
Yeah, right. So
So it is a very big issue in our professions and become an agenda for Bush administration.
Yeah.
And become issue in Congress.
Yes.
And they issue Sarbanes-Oxley Act.
Yeah, Sarbanes-Oxley. Yeah, right.
To make the company, to make the management, to make the CEO, to make the accounting profession become more responsible to protect the...
Arthur Andersen went under, didn't he? Arthur Andersen went under. That was a large accounting firm, one of the big 6 or 7, and it went under because of the fact that they were fudging their reports. They were fudging the analysis and so forth in order to make the stock go up, and everybody were in it, and it was pushing the envelope in favor of the investor class and so forth. And a lot of people still feel there hasn't been a reckoning with that or getting the system right. There's still people that are pushing that now in the name of, growth of a company and accounting. So how the accounting and the standards is really an important issue in terms of, let's say, the world economy and the way things are set. And those standards are set by certain, I guess, ethical or moral principles that are incorporated into the regulatory framework and that sort of thing. So that's an important issue that you're interested in at a philosophical basis as well, and also in terms of the efficiency of the operation of and the ethical equity of the operation of an economy, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Accounting is the, he provide information. So if the information is not true, so it's useless. So accounting is a very important role in our economy. Because if you
everywhere.
Everywhere. If you don't produce a reliable information, so it's useless. So
well, it could be used to some nefarious. You know the word nefarious. Illegal purpose in order for some group to gain, and they can do it, and then they can buy politicians and then get what they call corruption, right? And that can happen in any society, I guess, and it does. Power corrupts, Lord Acton said, that sort of thing. Yeah, but it's very important in that. And then it comes down to where there has to be some sort of an understanding of the basic principles of ethics, morality, efficiency, equity, justice, these kind of things by which a national or a regional or a national or a world economy is organized. And if I'm not mistaken, you're a major developer of a program in teaching what you call Sharia economics. And that would be an Islamic view of economics.
Economics, banking, and accounting.
And you do this at the this is based at the university that you are. What's the university you're associated with?
Trisakti University in Jakarta. This is a private, the biggest private university in the country.
And you also have an accounting firm. And you've written 20 books on these subjects. And you're a world-recognized expert on this very crucial question in terms of the way the world economy ought be and can be, and on the basis of what traditions and so forth can be organized. And you're setting up, if I may, a link with Canadian universities, British universities, and some American connection, I think, as well. Harvard, you say? And this is a very important issue because it's very ill understood. What are the basic notions of economic organization that come out of the Islamic tradition and what is called in the Islamic tradition Sharia? There's a great deal of misunderstanding about that in this country, but maybe you could address that. Am I correct? You're involved with that?
Yes. I am not the, I'm not expert on Sharia. I'm not expert in fiqh, but in my opinion, Sharia come from the value from the God. So in Islam, we believe in one God. So the value come from God. So God also give us guidance how to deal with economy, society, political, and anything that we live in this world. There is a guidance from the God.
The source.
The source of the law from the God.
It's sort of in keeping with the Judeo-Christian tradition of monotheism, but then we have other ethical systems, Buddhist systems, Vedic systems, and they usually tend to agree on certain basic principles. But
many.
The Islamic one is particularly important, and if I may, we have a very misdirected kind of sense. We get a lot of propaganda directed at us. We're in maybe some people feel a war of culture between Christian values and Islamic values. Some people see that. Huntington says there's going to be a clash of civilizations. We see Osama bin Laden, and we see this kind of thing. and they associate Sharia with systems where people get their hands cut off for stealing a loaf of bread or something. And there's a great deal of prejudice. Maybe you could help set us straight. What does Sharia mean? Does it have a literal translation? And you're setting up a system for training people in a notion of Sharia-based economic philosophy.
Right.
That's a very big subject and beginning to take off all over the world.
Yeah, in my opinion, Sharia law is same what Jews and Christian assume on value system.
Okay. Well,
so we have a very much similarity between those
three monotheistic
three original religious tradition.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
yes.
What is the big issue now is the secular on capitalistic system, which is more on private, what we call it, the interest of individualism.
Individual private sector.
Private sector.
Yeah, and secular values that
secular value.
That's been part of the Enlightenment in much of the West, where the belief in evolution and science and scientific and technology and that sort of thing. Yeah. Secular-based values.
Secular-based value and secular-based scientific value. Knowledge is based on secular.
Right.
So we know we have a limitation on our rationality. So if we only use the source of the truth from our ratio,
reason from reason.
Just from reason.
Yes.
We have limitation.
Just from the secular, so you think there's a limitation because
a limitation about that.
Okay.
Because we live not only, that is my
yes, all
belief.
right. Yeah, right.
We live not only in this world, but we live in hereafter.
And there also there's a spiritual or a transcendent dimension to things that often are overlooked within and the secular. You can have a secular fundamentalism that can be out of sync with the larger entity or the larger considerations.
And we can see how this world has been managed by using only from secular rationality.
Really? You think? Yeah.
Yeah, you see, Kevin Phillips,
Kevin Phillips,
Kevin Phillips just mentioned about how the richer become richer, the rich become richer, and the poor become poor.
Well, that, if I may, hasn't it always been like that? That you have a group, in Rome we had an emperor, and they lived in the palace and the people were in the mud. Or even in Aristotle's Greece, there were a few people at the top, and they had slaves to make sure that, hasn't it always been, that's a class thing that a Marxist would talk about, that you always got a few people, and all the world we have a few people, maybe 20%, Mr. Stiglitz says, who run things. They run things. They're the leaders, and they manipulate opinion through ad campaigns called elections. And you have a small group, and then on a world scale, you have some people who have power. So that's that Lord Acton thing. Hasn't it always been throughout history? There was a small group that were the leaders that ran things, and everyone else had to do what they were told. So I mean, it's not just the secularization that created that kind of, or faith in secular values, or science and technology that did that. It's sort of been endemic to the whole history of American, of human development. It seems to me. I don't know.
Yes, you're right, but if we go to the root of the problem.
Okay, good, yeah.
If we go to the root of the problem, it means that they got a power and they use the power for their own interest, right?
Right, but in all systems, some of them are secular-based, some are religious-based. They'll use a religious idea to keep the power. Sometimes the priests are in control, sometimes the business guys are in control. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they will all say, they all say that they're leading toward a system of justice, or they will do that in terms of their PR campaigns and so forth.
Yeah. That's right. In any religion, we have the possibility of abusing the power, right?
Absolutely. Or any secular-based, or even a political-based notion of nationalism. If they get a hold of the idea that they are special, or you get Hutus in Africa killing each other, 800,000 with machetes, because they had some different or something, There are these ethnic differences, too, that people fight over.
So if we see the history, say church or say mosque,
right,
priests have been recognized as some of them abuse power.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, no doubt. We've had a lot of
you
problem in this country with the Catholic
and we
Church.
correct it by
And
using
others.
capitalistic system
Uh-huh.
and socialistic system like Marxism, and we Marxism, Karl Marx,
Yeah.
or especially implemented in Russia,
Yeah.
has been vanished,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the system,
Well,
the
it
social
ha-
and economic system has been vanished.
The system that Karl Marx introduced and had so much of the world enthralled
Right.
with the Soviet Union and then China,
Yeah.
and then there was containment by the forces of the United States and so forth, and then that seems to have imploded
Right.
in the Soviet Union, and there's something strange going on in China. I don't know
yeah.
you must watch that carefully. You're on the doorstep.
Yes.
That what's going on in China, they had a communist system, but it seems to be looking
Go to the
awfully.
yes.
It seems to be looking awfully like capitalism
Yes.
now, but with a communist face or something. Have you paid attention to what's going on in China?
Not many, but
Uh-huh.
even though they say they are socialists or communists, but in reality we see they are mostly tend to be a capitalistic system, right?
And the capitalist system tends to have a plutocratic ownership class that has most of the power.
Yeah, that is the.
And that includes the United States. We are a
Yeah, yeah.
plutocracy, but we have a surface of democracy. You get to vote every 4 years or something. But the assets are all owned by a very small group of people. And maybe that system that's in place now since, I don't know, since 1776, Adam Smith and that system that's in place, maybe some people, Stiglitz and other people are saying, and some people from the Sharia tradition are saying the system that's in place and calls itself legitimate may have to be fundamentally questioned in terms of a post-industrial, super-industrialized world that's coming, that the principles in that system, how it's been organized for 200 years, might well be brought into question. Correct?
That's true. Yeah, I love it.
Big issue.
Yeah, big issue.
Big issue. Yeah.
And we have to look for another alternative because we see the injustice everywhere.
Everywhere, and it's growing, I think.
Yeah.
Do you not? You think it's growing? The trend is growing.
I read
injustice between the nations and within the nations.
Within the nation, within the individual, within the society.
So
last week I went to Bangladesh and transit in Bangkok, and I saw headline of a Bangkok newspaper.
Yeah. And?
What happened in Thailand?
Wow.
The rich become richer, the poor become poorer.
Everywhere. Is
Everywhere.
it not the case everywhere?
Yeah,
Is it the case in Indonesia?
Yes, very much, very
it's
much.
certainly the case here.
Yeah.
And then our president just did as, if I may, I mean, I don't know how you feel. I don't particularly care for our current president. That's just, something that is the way I feel. I think he's but the keynote issue that he did is he makes a great big $2 trillion tax cut, most of which went to the super wealthy in the name of some supply notion of giving more wealth to the rich already and draining the resources for any of our public services, public schools and so forth. They're all in deficit and so forth. So the tone that's being set by the world leadership is in many people's mind around the world not appropriate to what the world needs or might be able to take advantage of if we got right-minded leadership, intellectually and political, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Business Week, I read also how Bush make gap become larger.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Kevin Phillips.
Kevin Phillips.
He wrote 2 books on that.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I know him from way back. Yeah, he's
and
written
the democratic system, capitalistic system is joined together to make this gap become larger. So I think it is the humanity problem. It's the humanity problem. We have to solve it. And in my opinion, all religions should be cooperate and work together to give our ultimate values.
And and this is in the name of notions of justice.
Yes, I think all justice universal term, right? So everybody needs justice. If you don't give the people justice, it will unrest. We will have conflict. We will have social conflict like Amichua. You read about Amichua.
I don't know.
Amichua say they make a market mechanism produce social conflict.
Who are you saying?
Amichua.
I don't know.
Amichua is very famous in
economists.
I think sociologist.
Sociologists. From where?
Sociologist. America.
Amichua.
Amichua, right. It's Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Chinese.
I'm learning. I want to get that.
Yeah,
How do you spell it?
Sure.
Yeah,
Amychua.
Okay, an American economist and sociologist, right?
Yeah, I think
okay, I'm learning. I
social,
really want to learn. Yeah, I would definitely. So tell me,
yeah,
what does he say?
what is his argument is market mechanism has produced social conflict everywhere. Like what happened in Indonesia, 1998.
You mean after the devaluation or the
yes,
the
you
had
crisis.
a terrible crisis
Yes,
in there, yeah.
terrible crisis, social crisis, not only economic crisis.
Yeah.
So everybody, go to a shopping center and take the commodities from there.
You had Manitar, the world system had certain ideas, and it didn't necessarily ascribe to what was done. Did Indonesia take a unite course at that time, or one of the countries there was Manitar, who was the leader, who took a unique attitude, a different attitude toward what was being prescribed by the Western powers in the crisis of '87, the finance. Never mind, that's another issue. Maybe we got the names mixed up, but there's a problem, right?
Yeah, very big problem.
Right, and that was a real thing. So that's a large-scale issue, and there's something going on. Now, in the world that maybe we should understand better, and you understand well, and you have an understanding of it, what would you mean, or what would be the basic components of what you call a Sharia economics?
Yeah.
Now that's we have Marxism, and we have Keynesianism, and we have Schumpeter and Van Hayek and Friedman and all those traditional things, back to Ricardo, that kind of thing, comparative advantage, these things. But there would be something entered into the economics understanding, particularly at a grounding philosophical level, that would be uniquely Islamic, perhaps, and is called Sharia economics. Where would that fit in? What would be some of the guiding principles of a Sharia economic organization assumption?
Islamic civilization has been, started from 800.
Well, yeah, and
and
600,
become superpower until 1200.
Yes, I know. Andalusia.
Yeah,
it was the leading center. The Caliphate was the leading center of civilization. Yeah.
We can read from the history that at the period of, I think, around 900, the world is very peaceful and justice, and nobody need zakat. Zakat
is
alm.
Yeah.
So it means everybody get social welfare. So it's proven by history.
It had that period, but they've gone in decline.
Yeah, they go to the
relationship to the others. Some people say because they got a sense of they've got a perfect system, so we do not have to move and change with the times, and that's what happens when the civilization goes into decline, when they can't change with the times. Is that? Do you think that's a proper interpretation of what caused the eclipse of the Islamic period of the Caliphate and the glory?
Yeah,
of
could
the
be
period?
because of egoism between leader of the Muslim countries at that time. So they conflict each other to get the power, right?
So what would distinguish Sharia economics? It might be just confront it right up. What would be the characteristics of a Sharia economic philosophy, as it were? Because as I said, we are very misinformed, and we have a prejudiced view of that term. So maybe
Sharia economic based on God willingness. So in that argument, God knows better what we need. God knows
better than
what we know.
Okay.
So
spell it out.
God knows which one is good for us. So God will regulate what is the best for our society, not only for our individual, not our personality, right?
Is that a counter to an overwhelming individualism that the West seems to do?
Yes. I think one of that.
That it is written, that it's universal, and no matter what we think, that is still operative. These principles that Sharia is based on.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, because the Prophet has been used as the model for how to dealing with economics issue. And what he did is just not only, he didn't try to accumulate wealth, but to distribute the wealth. Even though he is, he is a leader of the nation, but he try not to be rich man.
To enrich himself.
He himself, but he tried to distribute the social welfare among the people.
One of the principles that I don't understand well religious history and so forth, there's a thing that's been very much looked at with the sconce, both Judaic and Christian, was the idea of interest, or on into usury, where there was great high interest charged and people would get in debt and so forth. That also is a principle that has been thought of by many people in the Islamic culture as something that should try to have a system that is not based upon or involves interest as a component of it. Now, we've gotten around that prescription against it that had religiously been decreed, but we've gone around it, and we have it, and our banking system and our economic system is largely based all around that, in the monetary policy on quarter point of prime rate and all that sort of thing. But is that an issue that's of important in terms of trying to understand the distinction of the Sharia economics, that you try to deal with something other than within terms of interest, or is it an important issue?
Originally, all religion against interest.
That's right.
And in my opinion, the problem of Sharia economics is not only on interest. In Quran, there is a ban. There is a ban. You cannot allow.
A ban.
A ban.
I see.
You cannot allow the wealth only circulate among small people.
You mean a small group of wealthy people?
Yeah.
You cannot.
But
it does happen.
Oh, that's happened.
Yeah.
This happened because of capitalistic system.
Because of the intrusion of capitalism into it, you think?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
In Quran, in my opinion, the main issue is not only interest, but the
justice,
the guidance, of Sharia economics is don't let the wealth only circulate among small group of people.
Small class, among the class of the leaders at the top. Well, we certainly have a system like that where the rich are getting richer all the time because they have capital asset ownership and
It
so
is
forth.
one of the impact of interest, because interest, we respect the people who own money.
The financiers, the finance. Right.
So we give them privilege.
Yeah, and we let them set the design standards for all of the organization of world society. It's all set by the financial community in a certain sense. Everybody else just fills in behind the design they've set in a certain sense,
We let them getting revenue or profit even though they don't have anything to do, just because of their own money. So in Islam, the idea is we should give somebody revenue or profit if they do something. So we don't like passive income.
Passive income.
Passive income.
And you also respect in Islam the institution of private property?
Oh, yes, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
that's not unlimited.
Okay.
Not unlimited.
Well, that's been a dispute between what we call, if I may, the left and the right, let's say, in this country, is that the left has always questioned the institution, as Marx would say, the institution of private property is going to lead inevitably to the concentration of wealth in few hands. And so they decided, like in the Soviet Union, get rid of private property, make it all in the state. Then they get a nomenclature, and it all gets concentrated without any private sector modulating of a totally government-controlled thing and so forth. So it's the institution of private property. Now we got a system where the private property ownership of the capital assets, which are creating the wealth, are all owned by a small group at the top, and everyone else only gets an income by having a labor relationship to production. So we've had this conflict over this institution of private property, and now Soviet Union's imploded. So Francis Fukuyama says that's the end of history. The ideology is all over. We've got this system, it's capitalism, and Islam does adhere to the idea that it's appropriate for somebody to have a private property relationship, an ownership stake in a private property sense to the instrument, to the assets of a capital or of a financial, of a economic organization or society.
We recognize the private, Sharia recognize the private ownership, but should be under the control of the society.
I
mean,
see.
You can own anything you want, but if it is for the sake of public, so you should respect to the interest of the public.
Is that distinct, do you think, from what is in the saddle, as they say, in the West?
One of them, yes.
That's a major issue.
And another issue is in Islam we do have the principle of partnership, not competitiveness.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Partnership, not competitiveness.
Not
you make that comparison.
So we promote partnership, not competition.
Okay. You and I were talking last night. We had a great dinner. It was great talking to you and everything like. And I told you I'm very taken with the country of Libya and Muammar Gaddafi. And Muammar Gaddafi set out. They got a company. They got a situation over there. They don't have a lot of signs or cult figures. We did an interview with him and so forth. And they had the one sign that they have over there everywhere is they have partners, not wage. They don't say competitions. They say partners, not wage earners, which draws it between the ownership of the instruments of production and a labor relationship, wage earners. And everywhere you see those signs, and if you do a business in Libya, they've socialized things a lot. They distributed wealth. They became from being the poorest people to having a standard like Europe in a very short one generation because they had oil wealth and so forth. But if you start a business there, they have a rule they try to maintain. It's hard to do because it's inappropriate, but they have you start a business. I told you I saw some fellows started a business with pasta, and they try to maintain, or Mr. Gaddafi tried to maintain, is you can't hire anybody. And so everybody who's part of that entity has to be an owner of the capital assets that make up that company, and it's the capital assets in the world at large which is increasingly responsible for production as the robotization and cybernation and all kinds of things happen. And so the labor input to that is less and less, and yet all of the economic theory, that Western theorizing on economics is based on a labor theory of value. But his is the only country I know where they say they have to be owners of the capital assets rather than employees. And they question that in the name, I guess, of a belief in the Sharia notion of partnership. You have ownership of the entity rather than just be an employee of somebody who does have the ownership, which is the case in most of the world.
In American system also.
That's called binary economics also. And you say there's a connection between this notion of Louis Kelso and binary economics and Sharia in your view.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That's
in American system we do have ESOP.
ESOP,
ESOP, right?
To a small degree, right?
To some extent it is a partnership. And there is another, I think, proverb in management. Don't compete, but collaborate.
Partnership.
Partnership. It's partnership.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea of Sharia to promote partnership is the trend of business.
I agree with you. I really do agree with you that on a world scale, whether it's coming out of a Sharia notion, that's coming out of justice and ethics in a certain sense, and there's a great deal of ethics and justice argumentation can be made for some new economic system that brings justice to the masses of the world, no matter in the name of what. There's some sort of a change from what we have in place now, but that there's a system that's going to be called for that is beyond that which our politicians are talking about now. A new kind of system. I tend to think it's going to be this binary notion, and that's going to be the economic rationale for organizing the planet henceforth. And you also have a sense that that is relevant to the needs of the future and the opportunities the future presents.
Yeah, I think so. If we want...
It's a sleeper, as we say. It isn't understood by most politicians. They'll just try and get everybody employed and let the concentration of ownership just keep becoming more concentrated. Okay.
So if you want to have a peaceful world.
Which I want to get 4 grandchildren now, you know. Yeah, right. It does focus the mind, as they say.
So don't let the wealth concentrate in one group of people.
As it's doing, tending to do, and under the impetus of the established powers that be that are claiming legitimacy to run the world according to their ideas of social, political, and economic organization. I would say in a large degree that's the United States of America. I'm sorry, that's the way I feel. That is not an appropriate model. It was appropriate after Thomas Jefferson. It's not. We need something new. And it may be that the kernel of this new notion, which is relevant to informing the whole economic and political organization of the planet, is going to come out of a partnership between this notion of binary economics that Louis Kelso did, and maybe Sharia, that is going to find a movement among the 1.4 billion Muslims in the world and set up a system that's going to allow a proper capital formation capability and justice and equity in distribution according to some sort of ownership stake in the productive process becoming increasingly automated and technologically oriented, that's what we need. And our traditional system is like a modern-day ancien regime, in a sense. They're representing a system whose time has passed. The legitimate forces that are now invading Iraq and so forth. Perhaps. I mean, that's just a thought. Do you think there's anything to that? Okay.
Sharia, you know, Sharia respect knowledge. Very respect. God very respect for people who own knowledge, you know. And we know America is leading in development of knowledge.
At the moment.
At the moment, and why don't we
think about something
think about what, like Stiglitz, Kevin Phillips, like
Kevin Phillips, you're getting
binary
at it,
economics.
Jeffrey Sachs up at Columbia now is calling it in. And we're letting the masses of the world starve. We're letting them die of AIDS. We don't care about the masses. We care only about the wealthy everywhere. I mean, there's something amiss on this planet.
Don't take the Muslim society as a reflection of Islamic values.
And don't take what now?
Muslim people, you know, as the reflection of Islamic values.
First, there's a lot of different ones.
There's
a big difference between you and Osama bin Laden.
Right.
And it's not just that, but they've got that view that's, you know, it's, right.
Let's think about this. Let's study Quran. Let's study how the Prophet lived and managed the society in the era.
Okay.
But
we have a tradition in this country of division between church and state, you understand? We definitely want the religion not to be running it because it's got a fundamentalist ontologic notion of everything is this way. And that's fundamentalism. We're worried about that in the United States. At least a lot of people in the secular side of things are, you know. So, to study the issues of justice and so forth, you could probably find, are you able to find, you're pursuing this Sharia notion, and if ever the Islamic world gets a model that's going to be relevant in a way that's going to really inform the development of things in a systematic, pragmatic, accounting way, in terms of an alternative to the basic philosophy that's motivating the current modern-day ancien regime, I would say of Mr. Bush and company and others and so forth, that's going to have a profound effect at the level of idea, is it not?
Yes, I think so, because, you know, the idea of Sharia economics or Islamic economics or binary economics is not only...
Or binary. I like that, linking it, because most people don't understand binary economics is beyond the pale. But it's the future.
Not only come from Muslim. So many Western scholars, you know, also talk about the Islamic economy.
Well, you have. It was Louis Kelso who largely do it, but then you got our preeminent American philosopher signed on to the idea back in the 50s. Mortimer Adler said that this is the future, and it stands outside the theoretical framework of virtually all economic understanding that's taught in our universities in America. Nobody talks about it, hardly at all. You can hardly get a chair anywhere in talking about anything other than the traditional economics of Ricardo, Marx, Schumpeter, Van Hayek, Friedman, the Chicago School, and that kind of thing. And the politicians and the television people all talk in that mode when the world, cries out for something other than that which they're trying to say is a legitimate order from now until the end of time.
You may read like Ibn Khaldun, you may Ibn Rushd, the school of thoughts on economics. So there are many philosophers before Ricardo, before Adam Smith, who think about
ought to be heard.
About economics.
And I'm based on certain basic principles. We also have some people like, you know, systems thinking. You do a lot of systems thinking, and you stress systems thinking in your curriculum and so forth. And there are other people who begin to look at the thing in a large scale of we're getting to be where we got a tremendous technologically augmented capability of providing for everybody in a way that historically we haven't had. So that Bob Dylan, do you know Bob Dylan, the famous folk singer? He said the times they are changing. the times are changing in a fundamental way, which might offer planetary liberation if we find a system that lets us do what we're capable of. And your notion of Sharia might be a system of organizing a good deal of society along the new way that is being practiced. And I'd even tell people to look at that system that Muammar Gaddafi's trying to establish as a new system that might be questioning fundamentally and appropriately the traditional pattern that everybody seems to think is there for all time.
Right.
And you're doing that as well in Indonesia.
Not only in Indonesia.
And you're linking up
Harvard
with
University.
UK
University. There are many UK university.
in UK.
In UK.
And Canada.
And Canada.
And the U.S. is starting to
Australia.
come. They're starting to invade they're starting to come into the United States too. And at Harvard, you tell me they got a regular thing on Sharia.
Regular thing every year.
And they do this partnership thing and the idea of something other than this labor theory of value.
So like binary economics. We don't mind the name become binary economics as far as the principle of the justice, universality, and we respect the God.
All right, I respect that. Okay, that's something that would be argued out over coffee at night or something, and that kind of thing. That could be done. But that there's something new coming, and that it's not just. Mr. Bush will say the only reason they don't like us is because they don't want to be free. You know, the Islamic. That's what he says. You know, you understand. You don't see the television how propagandistically it is skewed.
Because the God asks us not free everything. You know, you can eat, but you should consider your health.
Yes, right, and the body politic at large. There's some changes called for, and it seems to me what you're doing, and you've written 20 books on this, you got a program going, it's really important. Glad to have been able to introduce you, and glad to meet you and learn from you, and that people will put contact information to you at the end. People will be in touch with you. You're here briefly here in New York. I'm really glad we were able to link up with you on this thing. And I'm going to be studying in great depth the Sharia notion that you are promulgating your colleagues. And I wish you all the best with this program that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And that you're beginning to bring to these shores even an idea that there is an alternative economics to that which is presented endlessly to us as the only answer. And I thank you really very much for that.
You're welcome.
And call it binary or Sharia?
We will. We will combine binary and economic and Sharia economy.
That would be a powerful
I will invite Robert Ashford.
Ashford. He's a great writer on that. Well, it's your pleasure.
And also you.
Now, it's Sofyan Harahap. Harahap. Okay, thank you, Sophia.
Thank you very much.
It's a very great pleasure, Dr. Harahap. And your pleasure to have his perception. We invite you to tune in. He's got a resume that would knock your socks out. You'll be able to get information about him on the internet. Very busy man, doing a great deal. And thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
To New York. Look forward to being in touch with you in the days ahead.
Thank you very much.
Your pleasure. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. Please tune in. Thanks again very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
So we just sort of scratched the surface, and you're going to get a lot of blowback or a lot of feedback from that kind of thing by people who are going to say, well, that's, because the prejudice against the notion of Sharia is so deep in this country, you cannot believe.
We know that.
You do. You're aware of how deep that prejudice is. It's just thought if you're going to cut off people's hands and you're primitive.
No.
You understand, it's a miscalculation.